A very good morning to all of you, my dear students. Today we are going to discuss something about the first session of anti-cancer drugs. Hope you have gone through that other two introductory videos. One is on cancer disease as such, and the other second one is on chemotherapy of cancer in detail. So now we'll discuss something about the anti-cancer drugs in three sessions. So let us see that. So I'm going to cover this topic under the following surveillance. That is, first session, I'll be covering the classification of anti-cancer drugs, then alkylating agents, and then anti-metabolites. So let us see the classification of anti-cancer drugs. So this is nitrogen mustards, which comprise meclorectamide, melphalan, chlorambucil, cyclophosphamide, ifosfamide, then ethylene amine category, which contains thiotepa, and busulfan, which belongs to alkyl sulfonates, and carmustine, lomustine, and streptozocin, which belong to nitrosoureas group, and procarbazine, the carbazine, and temozolomide, which belong to triazine group. Then coming to the antimetabolites. So they are folate antagonists, that is methotrexate, and purine antagonist, that is 6-mercaptopurine, 6-thioguanine, azathioprine, and then pyrimidine antagonists like 5-fluorouracil, cytarabine, and gemcitabine. Then natural products, that is antibiotics, which include actinomycin D, doxorubicin, daunorubicin, bleomycin, mitomycin C, and vinca alkaloids are antimitotic drugs, that is vincristine, vinblastine, vinorelbine, and then taxanes, which include paclitaxel and docetaxel, and enzymes like L-asparaginase, and epipodophyllitoxins like etoposide and tinoposide, and cantothecin analogs like topotecan and erinotecan. And then biological response modifiers like interferons and interleukins. This will be discussing something under the subheading like targeted drug therapy of cancer chemotherapy. That will be the last session. Then hormones and antagonists, that is the corticosteroids like prednisolone, and estrogens like ethinyl estradiol, and selective estrogen receptor modulators like tamoxifen, and selective estrogen receptor down regulators like fulvestrant, and the aromatase inhibitors like letrozole, anastrozole, and exmestane, and then the progestins, that is hydroxyprogesterone, and anti-androgens, which include flutamide and bicalutamide. Then 5 alpha reductase inhibitors, which include finasteride, dutasteride, and then GnRH analogs like goserelin and leucoprolide. Then miscellaneous agents include cisplatin, carboplatin, hydroxyurea, procarbazine, mitotane, and imatinib. So let us see. This classification includes alkylating agents, then antimetabolites, the natural products, which include cytotoxic antibiotics, and then vinca alkaloids and other miscellaneous group of drugs, which are natural products, then hormones and antagonists, then miscellaneous agents. So if you look into this picture, there is the combined mechanism of action of some of the anti-cancer drugs is seen here. So purine synthesis and pyrimidine synthesis, then that can give rise to ribonucleotide synthesis, deoxyribonucleotide synthesis, and DNA synthesis, RNA synthesis, which can again connect it to the protein synthesis, and enzymes and microtubules here. So purine synthesis to ribonucleotide synthesis, this step is getting involved with the usage of antimetabolites like 6-mercaptopurine, 6-thioguanine, and methotrexate. Then hydroxyurea, this step is getting involved. The conversion from ribonucleotides to deoxyribonucleotides, and then alkylating agents which act by altering structure and function of DNA by cross linkages or fragmentation or scission of DNA. So that group of anti-cancer drugs, they act on DNA directly, and then 5-fluorouracil, cytarabine, and gemcitabine act on deoxyribonucleotides. Then etoposide topoisomerase 2 inhibitors, they break the DNA through their mechanism of action, which act through this DNA. And then antibiotics also act on DNA, asparaginase on proteins, and then antimitotic drugs like vinculcolides, which prevent polymerization of the molecule, and then vaccines, which enhance polymerization of the molecules, they act on microtubules. So this is the, in nutshell, mechanism of actions of various anti-cancer drugs. So here you can see a little bit in detail. So this is pentostatin inhibits adenosine deaminase, 6-mercaptopurine or 6-thioguanine that inhibits purine synthesis and inhibits nucleotides, and then methotrexate inhibits purine synthesis also. Then cytarabine inhibits DNA polymerase and inhibits RNA function also. Then this we are not going to discuss about. Then 5-fluorouracil inhibits DTMP synthesis, bleomycin, it damages DNA and prevent repair. Then alkylating agents, mitomycin, cisplatin, all these groups of drugs, they act by cross-linking the DNA molecule. The natural products like camptothecins, doxorubicin, and then etoposide, all these molecules, they inhibit topoisomerase type 2 and also inhibit RNA synthesis. Then dactynomycin specifically intercalates DNA molecules, inhibits topoisomerase 2 and inhibits RNA synthesis also. Whereas vinca alkaloids and taxanes, they inhibit functioning of the microtubules. This is the, in nutshell, combining all the mechanisms of actions of various anti-cancer drugs. So this is another type of classification where it's dependent upon the site of action. Most antineoplastic drugs act on proliferating cells of the cycle of the cell. So destruction of DNA or inhibition of DNA duplication. So this is done by alkylating agents and mitomycin C. Inhibition of nucleic acid synthesis, both DNA and RNA, is done by 5-fluorouracil, 6-mercaptopurine, then methotrexate and cytarabine. Then interference with the transcription to inhibit RNA synthesis is done by dactynomycin, daunorubicin, and doxorubicin. Then inhibition of protein synthesis is done by vinca alkaloids, epipodophyllitoxins, and paclitaxel. Interference with hormone balance is done by adrenal corticosteroids, estrogens, and tamoxifen, etc. Then this is another classification based on the cell cycle. So cell cycle specific drugs, cell cycle non-specific drugs. So you can remember the first classification which we have discussed for the examination point of view, but just for Viva Voce point of view, I'm just giving you the details of the other classifications also. So cell cycle non-specific means these drugs, they kill resting cells and dividing cells as well. So that's why they are referred to as non-specific drugs. So they are cyclophosphamide, chlorambucil, cisplatin, actinomycin D, and L-asparginase. Whereas cell cycle specific drugs, they kill actively dividing cells through only some phases. So G1 phase, so the drug which acts on G1 phase is vinblastine. Methotrexate, 6-mercaptopurine, and 5-fluorouracil act on S phase, that is synthetic phase. And bleomycin, etoposide, topotecan, daunorubicin act on Z2 phase, whereas vincristin, vinblastine, paclitaxel, and docetaxel mitotic inhibitors act on mitotic phase. So this is directly acting cytotoxic drugs and indirectly acting cytotoxic drugs by altering the hormonal milieu. So these are directly acting cytotoxic drugs are alkylating agents, antimetabolites, natural products, which we have discussed already, then miscellaneous compounds. Then indirectly acting compounds are corticosteroids, estrogens, and estrogen receptor modulators, that is SERMs, and 5-alpha reductase inhibitors, GnRH analogs or LH analogs, whichever way you may name it, then progestins. So this is cell cycle specific drugs, non-specific drugs. So these specific drugs, they are effective for high growth fraction malignancies such as hematologic cancers. Whereas the non-specific drugs, they are effective for both the low growth and high growth fraction malignancies. So that's why they are used even in case of management of solid cancers also. So here you can see, it's a little bit easy to remember. Drugs which act on G1 phase, hormonal drugs, antineoplastic enzymes, that is L-asparginase. and synthetic phase, antimetabolites, folate analog like methotrexate, purine analogs, then pyrimidine analogs, and miscellaneous group that is specifically hydroxyurea. Then topoisomerase 1 inhibitors like topotecan and irinotecan also act through this phase. And then drugs which act on G2 phase are epipodophyllitoxin derivatives, that is etoposide and tenofoside. And then miscellaneous group of drugs like anti-cancer antibiotics, that is bleomycin acts here. Then docetaxel and paclitaxel also act through this phase. And antimitotic drugs like vincalcalides, that is vincristin, vinblastin, and vinorelbin, they act through mitotic phase. So in this session, we are going to discuss something in detail about the alkylating agents and then antimetabolites. So let us see one by one. So the alkylating agents, the classification is like this: nitrogen musters, ethylenimines, alkyl sulfonates, nitrosoureas, and triazoles. We'll discuss each and every drug in detail now. So nitrogen mustards means meclorithamine. It contains the drugs like meclorithamine, melphalan, chlorambucil, cyclophosphamide, and ifosfamide. So let us see what is the history of nitrogen mustards and then the general properties. This compound sulfur mustard was first used in 1917 in chemical warfare. But before identifying its mechanism, its pharmacological action, not chemical action, I can say, they have found out its adverse effect because it caused severe desiccation of the skin and mucous membranes, GI ulcerations, and myelosuppression. But later on, they came to know the after the discovery of the cytotoxic activity, they came to know about the pharmacological properties of nitrogen mustard, that is like anti-cancer action, became known only after the end of World War II. So this is the nitrogen mustards. They comprise the prototype alkylating agents, and they are the first chemotherapeutic agents that are discovered. So in connection to the history, you have to remember this point and you have to write it in your final exam. That is that because this is Louis Sanford Goodman, was an American pharmacologist. He is best known for his collaborations with Alfred Gilman, with whom he authored the popular textbook, The Pharmacological Basis of Therapeutics in 1941. You must be aware of this one, Goodman-Gilman textbook. So author of this textbook was this man only, Goodman. And he pioneered the first chemotherapy trials using nitrogen mustard. So this is the scientist who is in connection with the nitrogen mustard discovery. So you must write this point, both for MBBS as well as MD exams. Then coming to the mechanism of action, alkylating agents, they form highly reactive carbonium ions when activated. Then they transfer their alkyl groups to the nucleophilic sites on DNA bases, which results in cross-linkage of DNA and abnormal base pairing and DNA strand scission or breakage, which results in inhibition of cell proliferation. Along with the DNA synthesis inhibition, there is also damage to the RNA and proteins as well. So this here you can see in this diagram also, alkylating agents getting activated or giving rise to active metabolites. They transfer alkyl groups or they alkylate the other cellular constituents. So cellular constituents, because of undergoing through the process of alkylation, they are unavailable for metabolic reactions. So they alkylate DNA. So various cellular constituents will get alkylated. So DNA strand breakages. So all further together resulting in cytotoxicity. Then nitrogen mustards mechanism of action, if you look into, they're called alkylating agents. So this is theory description because these compounds can transfer an alkyl radical to a susceptible receptor site. Alkylating agents in neutral or alkaline solution form highly reactive quaternary ammonium derivatives, that is ethylene iminium cations. These cations react with the alkylate groups, that is like amino, sulfhydryl, hydroxyl, or phosphate groups in the physiologically important molecules in the cells and render them unavailable for the normal metabolic reaction. You need to remember this point. They are getting attached to or react with amino, sulfhydryl, hydroxy, or phosphate groups. So this has a clinical significance, which we are going to discuss in the subsequent slides. Then depending on the number of groups, the compounds are termed as di or polyfunctional. They're cell cycle non-specific drugs. They can act on any phase of the cycle. They react with the nucleic acid bases and inhibit DNA synthesis, which we have discussed just now. They also bring about a cross-linkage of DNA strands and thus interfere with cell replication. Then coming to the cytotoxic action, they damage the nuclei of growing and multiplying cells. The hematopoietic system is highly susceptible to this action. So because of which the main adverse effect that we can see in the patients is myelosuppression, which can give rise to leukopenia, anemia, thrombocytopenia, and aplasia of the bone marrow. Then the main point, of course, we'll be discussing in detail about the drug chlorambucil and busulfan. The differentiating feature that I would like to mention here is chlorambucil predominantly affects the lymphoid series, whereas busulfan predominantly affects myeloid tissue. Chlorambucil, this word is ending with L letter, so lymphoid series. So the rest of the other one, busulfan, obviously affects the myeloid tissue. They affect epithelial tissues of cornea, oral, and intestinal mucosa, giving rise to ulceration. And apart from that, as usual with all the anti-cancer drugs, hair follicle damage will be resulting in alopecia. Then irreversible impairment of spermatogenesis in males and amenorrhea and phytotoxicity in females is also one of the results with these nitrogen mustards. Immunosuppression. Suppress antibody protection and hence act as immunosuppressants, which is the main cause for the enhancement of opportunistic infections in the patients. Then miscellaneous actions like severe nausea and vomiting, mutagenic and leukomogenic, so that's why not that often advisable. The nitrogen mustards are also called radiomimetic drugs, as their actions resemble to some extent the biological effects of ionizing radiation. So all the adverse effects are very dreadful. But one point is that all alkylating agents are not radiomimetic to the same extent. Then another compound after the nitrogen mustard, that is meclorethamine. You can see here why I have enlarged these three letters, MEC. So they have the clinical significance here, pharmacological significance. So it's like rather than giving the mnemonic, I have just enlarged these letters. So pay attention to that. This is the first nitrogen mustard introduced in cancer therapeutics. Then locally it is a vesican, just like similar to that of the nitrogen mustards. The most susceptible tissues being those of the skin, eyes, and respiratory tract. When dissolved in water, the drug undergoes very rapid intramolecular chemical transformation to the active form within a few minutes. So because of which it is given IV administration. Majority of the anti-cancer drugs are given through IV administration. Largely metabolized in the body, extravasation of the drug into the tissues causes severe irritation and sloughing. So this E stands for extravasation. So if you can remember, like it's like a kind of mnemonic. So if you can remember all these points, you can write down about the drug in detail in your final exam. It is supplied as hydrochloride. Then coming to the adverse reactions, it is a very toxic drug, giving rise to the symptoms like manifestations like anorexia, severe nausea, and vomiting. Hence, it is usually administered at bedtime along with the prophylactic antiemetic. Then delayed toxicity will be like anemia and myelosuppression up to a major extent, and then aplasia also. Then therapeutic uses, meclorethamine and other alkylating agents are used in combination with other drugs to treat various hematologic and solid cancers and even lymphomas. So Hodgkin's disease that is most commonly used apart from CML and CLL. So Hodgkin's disease, the regimen that is used here is MOP regimen. So here M stands for meclorethamine. So here M stands for meclorethamine. So this is extravasation. This is M stand for MOP regimen. Okay, for Hodgkin's disease. Then coming to the melphalan. This is a phenylalanine nitrogen mustard with properties similar to other alkylating agents, effective orally, less irritant locally, rarely causes alopecia, and other systemic toxic effects are similar to those of meclorethamine. This compound is used in ovarian cancer and multiple myeloma. Then coming to the chlorambucil. It is chemically related to meclorethamine, has similar pharmacological and toxicological properties. Shortest acting nitrogen mustard, effective orally, predominantly against malignant cells of lymphoid series. L for lymphoid series. So this name is ending with letter L. L means it is not longest but shortest acting nitrogen mustard. That's how you can remember easily. Then it is not a local irritant, rarely causes alopecia even after prolonged usage. That is somewhat better advantage when compared to the other anti-cancer drugs. Myelosuppressive effect is dose dependent and reversible. Then coming to the therapeutic uses, same as cyclophosphamide, a drug of choice for CLN. Then cyclophosphamide. Pharmacological actions of this compound are mostly similar to those of meclorethamine hydrochloride. It is a prodrug. P for prodrug. In contrast to nitrogen mustard, it is not a local irritant. It can be given orally as well as parenterally. Well absorbed from GIT, converted in the liver to active metabolites like hydroxyphosphamide and aldophosphamide. They are metabolized further to inactive compounds and can get excreted in urine. So 14% of the drug appears in the urine unchanged. So here you can see cyclophosphamide getting converted to 4-hydroxycyclophosphamide and aldophosphamide. Then it is getting again converted to phosphoramide mustard and acrolein, which is toxic product. So cyclophosphamide getting converted to 4-hydroxycyclophosphamide and aldophosphamide. This is again getting converted to phosphoramide mustard, which is an active metabolite in humor, and then acrolein, which is urotoxic metabolite in bladder, which is going to give rise to toxicity to the bladder. So here you can see in this picture cyclophosphamide or even its analog ifosfamide metabolized in the liver, giving rise to active phosphoramide mustard, which can alkylate the DNA and inhibit DNA synthesis and replication. Okay. So here cyclophosphamide getting converted to hydroxy and then aldophosphamide. Then this is giving rise to phosphoramide mustard, and here acrolein. Phosphoramide mustard is going to give cytotoxic effect, whereas acrolein molecule is going to give rise hemorrhagic cystitis. This is toxic to the bladder, so which is nullified by the administration of mesna molecule, which we are going to discuss now. So C means toxicity, cytotoxicity, specifically to the bladder, cystitis that can give rise to. So adverse drug reactions similar to that of meclorethamine molecule, it can give rise to chemical cystitis. This is hemorrhagic or chemical cystitis, C stands for. Okay. And hepatic damage also it results in. The toxicity to the urinary tract epithelium is due to the metabolite acrolein. That's what we have discussed in the earlier slide. So to nullify that toxicity to the bladder, we administer mesna, a synthetic sulfhydryl compound, given simultaneously with cyclophosphamide, and again 4 and 8 hours later, reacts with the toxic metabolite in the urinary tract, that is the acrolein molecule, thus preventing hemorrhagic cystitis. So this is what I was just telling you regarding the in the introduction, because this molecule is nullifying the toxic products, are nullifying the sulfhydryl compounds. We are administering synthetic sulfhydryl compound, that is Metsna here. It is administered through intravenous, intrapleural, intraperitoneal, intraarterial, and even sometimes directly into the tumor also. So cyclophosphamide. This is neoplastic uses and non-neoplastic uses it has got. So Hodgkin's lymphoma, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, ALL and CLL, multiple myeloma, Burkitt's lymphoma, neuroblastoma, retinoblastoma, breast cancer, and adenocarcinoma of ovaries. Non-neoplastic uses are rheumatoid arthritis, autoimmune nephritis, myasthenia gravis, multiple sclerosis, and organ transplants. Ifosfamide, it is an analog or congener of cyclophosphamide. It has long half-life, less ADR, but it also gives rise to hemorrhagic cystitis and neurological toxicity. Uses: it is used in the management of germ cell testicular tumors and adult sarcomas. S means sarcomas. Amide means, why I have folded it down out is, it is like similar to the analog of cyclophosphamide. Okay. So here you can see ifosfamide getting converted to if isophosphoramide mustard, that is active form, which can give rise to cytotoxic effect, and then acrolein, which also give rise to cytotoxic effect to the bladder specifically. Thiotepa. It is a prototype of ethylene imines class, which has similar actions as that of meclorectamide, not a local irritant, not well absorbed orally, so IV administration is preferred, converted to active metabolite, that is triethylene phosphoramide. Used by bladder installation for superficial bladder tumors and also in ovarian tumors. So O for ovarian tumors, apart from bladder tumors management. Then busulfan, we have discussed this in our introductory session. I mean, not introductory slides just now. So busulfan, it affects the myeloid series. This alkyl sulfonate differs from nitrogen mustards in its mechanism of action, causes a selective depression of granulocyte and platelet production, no significant action on the intestinal epithelium or even the lymphoid tissue, but more effective against cells of the myeloid series. Busulfan pharmacokinetics, well absorbed orally, excreted in urine as methane sulfonic acid, and ADRR less nausea because of its selective action. The incidence of thrombocytopenia is higher with this molecule. But prolonged administration can give rise to the side effects like amenorrhea, wasting syndrome, pigmentation, gynecomastia, anhidrosis, and pulmonary fibrosis, which is specific to this molecule, otherwise known as busulfan lung. So P stands for pulmonary fibrosis here. Then it is used in combination in the treatment of CML, chronic myeloid leukemia. Then procarbazine hydrochloride. It's a methyl hydrazine derivative activated in the liver, used in the treatment of Hodgkin's disease in the MOPS regimen. Then ADRR CNS related, giving rise to restlessness, drowsiness, nightmares, and disorientation. And hematological leukopenia, thrombocytopenia, and anemia. And it also gives rise to disulfiram-like reaction following alcohol ingestion. You need to remember, this is the most common question that is asked in Viva-VC. Which is the drug that produces disulfiram-like reaction among all the anti-cancer drugs? Dacarbazine and temozolomide, they are triazine derivatives. Mechanism of action and ADR are similar to those of procarbazine. Dacarbazine is used in the management of malignant melanoma, Hodgkin's lymphoma, and soft tissue sarcoma, whereas temozolomide is used in the treatment of malignant glioma and astrocytoma. Then coming to the group of drugs, that is nitrosoureas. They contain two functional groups, that is nitroso group and urea group in their structure. Mechanism of action is by cross-linking through alkylation of DNA, same alkylating agents. Then ADR is myelosuppression, pulmonary toxicity, and nephrotoxicity. Okay. So don't get confused with nitrogen mustards and nitrosoureas. Okay. Then lomustine and carmustine are the two drugs that come under the group nitrosoureas. Okay. This is lomustine. O means oral administration and the other one is IV administration. Lipid soluble drugs and penetrate blood-brain barriers, so they are used in the management of brain tumors. Bendamustine is another analog that is used in the management of CLL and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Then estromustine, estrogen plus mustine, designed to deliver mustine to the estrogen receptor site of a tumor. Example, specifically in case of prostate cancer. It has both a local cytostatic effect and a hormonal effect due to its estrogen component. So estrogen is clubbed to the mustine molecule here. Mechanisms of resistance of alkylating agents. It's similar kind of thing which we have discussed in our introductory session. So decreased influx of the drug and increased metabolic inactivation of drugs. Then increased production of nucleophilic substances like glutathione, which compete with the target DNA for alkylation. And it could be even increased activity of DNA repair enzymes. So in a nutshell, in the table given below, so here you can see meclorethamine, DNA crosslinks resulting in inhibition of DNA synthesis and function. This is the main mechanism of action. Then used in Hodgkin's and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, oral administration. These are the side effects: nausea, vomiting, bone marrow depression, bleeding, alopecia, skin pigmentation, and pulmonary fibrosis. Pulmonary fibrosis is most common with busulfan actually. Then this is atypical alkylating agent, busulfan, used in chronic granulocytic leukemia, bone marrow depression, and pulmonary fibrosis, and even hyperuricemia. Lomustine alkylates and cross-links DNA, thereby inhibiting DNA and RNA synthesis, crosses blood-brain barriers, so used in the management of even brain tumors. Hodgkin's, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, malignant melanoma, epidermoid carcinoma of lung, and toxicity is nephrotoxicity and nerve dysfunction. Then nitrosoureas, carmustine and lomustine, cinostin, because they cross blood-brain barrier, used in the management of specifically brain tumors. Hematopoietic depression, aplastic anemia, renal toxicity, pulmonary fibrosis, but most often with busulfan only. Management of brain tumors. Here you can see the difference. This also crosses the blood-brain barrier, lomustine. Here, along with that, cornerstone also crosses the blood-brain barrier. So both the drugs are used in the management of brain tumors. Temozolomide and dacarbazine, which we have discussed just now. So they produce myelosuppression, and then they are used in the management of melanomas. Then coming to the other group of drugs after finishing these alkylating agents, antimetabolites. Chemical substances which take part in cellular metabolic reactions are called metabolites, whereas a chemical agent which by virtue of its close structural similarity to the metabolite blocks its action is called antimetabolite. Okay, it's a kind of analog or antagonistic action. Okay, so this is metabolite, this is antimetabolite. So these drugs can compete for binding sites on enzymes. So they will go and bind to the molecules which have to combine with the enzymes, or they can themselves can get incorporated into DNA or RNA and thus interfere with cell growth and proliferation. Most widely used cytostatics and cell cycle specific drugs specifically acting on S-phase. Classification is folate antagonist, methotrexate, and purine antagonists like 6-mercaptopurine, 6-thioguanine, and azathioprine, and pyrimidine antagonists like 5-fluorouracil, cytarabine, and gemcitabine. So here you can see purines and pyrimidine synthesis, DNA intercalation, damage or cross, improper coiling. So transcription, translation, everything, DNA synthesis, transcription mechanisms and translation mechanisms, RNA synthesis, everything is nullified here. So they block protein function within cells or on cell surface. That is the main action. So then coming to the folate antagonist, methotrexate molecule. It is a folic acid analog which acts as a folic acid antagonist. Analog acting as antagonistic means they have similar kind of chemical structure compared to that of the folic acid molecule. Mechanism of action is folic acid is essential for the production of the coenzyme tetrahydrofolic acid. The conversion of folate to tetrahydrofolate is carried out by an enzyme folate reductase. So this folate reductase is going to be inhibited by using methotrexate molecule. So it binds to the folate reductase irreversibly, thus restricting the production of tetrahydrofolic acid, which is useful for the synthesis of purines and pyrimidines, and then RNA and DNA synthesis, and then finally leading to the cell replication. So when this tetrahydrofolate molecule as such is inhibited because of the irreversible inhibition of folate reductase, so all these sequential events are going to get inhibited. Purine synthesis, pyrimidine synthesis, DNA synthesis, RNA synthesis, and cell replication, everything is going to get inhibited. They're more toxic to tissues with a high proportion of rapidly dividing cells like bone marrow, so high rate of myelosuppression. So you can see here folate getting converted to entering into the cell, getting converted to dihydrofolic acid with the help of dihydrofolate reductase enzyme. And again, with the help of the same enzyme, dihydrofolate is getting converted into tetrahydrofolate. which is useful for the formation of purines, pyrimidines, DNA, RNA synthesis, everything, all subsequential events. So when you administer methotrexate molecule to that particular patient, it is going to inhibit this dihydrofolate reductase enzyme. So there is no dihydrofolic acid and tetrahydrofolic acid molecule formation. So all the subsequential events will be nullified. So here you can see methotrexate, dihydrofolate reductase enzyme inhibition. So dihydrofolate is not getting converted into tetrahydrofolate. Same thing here, dihydrofolate, dihydrofolate reductase enzyme. So here, this methotrexate, red means methotrexate. This is 5-fluorouracil, DUMP, that we'll see later. So this is the inhibition of dihydrofolate reductase molecule. So THF is not formed. Folate to tetrahydrofolate with the help of dihydrofolate reductase. So methotrexate is blocking this enzyme. So DNA and RNA synthesis both are nullified here. Then coming to the pharmacological action, cytotoxic actions. Methotrexate has a predominant action on the bone marrow. It inhibits erythropoiesis, myelopoiesis, and finally may cause aplasia of the bone. So this causes marked granulocytopenia, reticulocytopenia, and moderate lymphopenia. Ulceration of the oral and intestinal mucosa, so crosses the placental barrier and interferes with embryogenesis, giving rise to fetal abnormalities and even sometimes death also. Immunosuppressive action. It is a potent immunosuppressant and acts by preventing the clonal expansion of both B and T lymphocytes. And anti-inflammatory action, which is going to be useful in treating the non-neoplastic autoimmune diseases. So here in small doses of methotrexate, it reduces lymphocyte proliferation, rheumatoid factor production, and interferes with the release of inflammatory cytokines like interleukins 2, 6, 8, and even tumor necrosis factor alpha. So thus, it acts as an anti-inflammatory agent. So because of this anti-inflammatory property, it is used as a disease-modifying drug in rheumatoid arthritis. It is well absorbed from the intestines, dissipates from the blood rapidly, and remains in the tissue longer than folate, causing prolonged inhibitory effect. Concentration in the CSF is poor. 50 to 90% of the dose is rapidly excreted via both the glomerular filtration and tubular secretion as well. So renal impairment or even intake of probenecid or even NSAIDs can augment its renal toxicity. So ADR are largely due to deficiency of tetrahydrofolate, oral and intestinal ulceration, nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea, as usual, that you usually write in the examination. Then alopecia, dermatitis, and liver damage. Nephropathy due to the precipitation of 7-hydroxymetabolite causing crystalluria, that is, so because of which, because it is giving rise to nephrotoxicity, we need to alkalinize the urine whenever we administer methotrexate molecule to the patients. Myelosuppression giving rise to megaloblastic anemia, thrombocytopenia, leukopenia, and aplasia. So risk is done with leucovorin or phenolic acid, and it can give rise to fetal malformations and even death of the baby also. So whenever you come across methotrexate toxicity, how you are going to manage it? This is very, very important 2 marks question. It cannot be reversed by giving folic acid. Why? Why folic acid should not be given? Because its conversion to tetrahydrofolate is blocked, because methotrexate molecule has already blocked the reductase enzyme. So there is no fun of giving folic acid, which will become anyway useless in the body. So what do we need? Tetrahydrofolate synthesis is inhibited, so we need to administer tetrahydrofolate. Because tetrahydrofolate is too unstable molecule, a related compound, that is folinic acid, is administered in its place in the form of calcium folinate or calcium levofolinate. That's how we are going to manage the methotrexate toxicity. So dose of this folinic acid, you need to remember, you have to write it down in the examination. It is administered IM or IV beginning 8 to 24 hours after the initiation of methotrexate therapy. This is very, very important question, that is methotrexate toxicity management. You can get even 4 marks question also. So folinic acid 120 mg in divided doses in the first 24 hours, followed by 15 mg orally by IM injection 6th hourly for the next 48 hours. Then drug interactions, ketoprofen when combined with methotrexate, it results in prolonged elevation of plasma methotrexate level. Same with other NSAIDs also. The intrathecal administration to treat meningeal infiltration in acute leukemia. Then neoplastic uses and non-neoplastic uses, both this molecule has. So neoplastic uses means ALL in children, AML, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, Burkitt's lymphoma, but choriocarcinoma. For this condition specifically, methotrexate is the drug of choice. Apart from that, it is also used in the management of soft tissue sarcoma, osteosarcoma, breast cancer, ovarian cancer, head and neck cancer, bladder cancer, etc. And non-neoplastic indications are mycosis fungoides, Crohn's disease, inflammatory bowel disease, rheumatoid arthritis, psoriasis, and steroid-resistant asthma. So the role of this molecule, it acts like an immunosuppressant in almost all these cases, autoimmune diseases, and transplant rejection, and even medical termination of pregnancy also. Then mechanisms of resistance, decreased drug entry, as usual, altered dihydrofolate reductase, because this is the main thing that is deranged. Then increased DHFR levels and decreased polyglutamate formation. Then trimethotrexate, another molecule, analog of methotrexate molecule used in the management of pneumocystis carinii pneumonia. Apart from that, cancer therapeutic purposes for managing metastatic colorectal carcinoma, head and neck carcinoma, pancreatic carcinoma, and non-small cell carcinoma of lung. Then premetrexate. So this is here. M means it is used mainly in the management of mesothelioma. So this is a pyrrolopyrimidine analog which causes inhibition of DHFR and several other enzymes in purine and pyrimidine biosynthesis. Main action is to inhibit thymidylate synthase. So when this molecule is combined with cisplatin, it is used in the management of non-small cell lung cancer, mesothelioma. Then coming to the purine analogs. So we have 6-mercaptopurine, 6-thioguanine, azathioprine, and fludarabine. So purine analogs means purines are integral components of DNA, RNA, and coenzymes that are synthesized in proliferation of the cancer cells. So an agent that antagonizes the purines will certainly lead to formation of false DNA, and the entire cascade of events will be nullified. So that agent is purine analog. Purine synthesis is nullified here. Purine analog means same chemistry these molecules have, but they act like antagonists. This is 6-mercaptopurine. It acts like it is prodrug, which is a purine analog. So urine, I have marked with a different color, urine. So this is having some clinical application. Let us see that. So the mechanism of action of this molecule is it is converted in the cells to ribonucleotide of 6-mercaptopurine, which then suppresses the de novo biosynthesis of purines and hence of DNA. So 6-mercaptopurine giving rise to ribonucleotide of 6-mercaptopurine. So that is very simple. Like methotrexate, it is mainly toxic to the bone marrow and intestinal epithelium. Same. So here you can see azathioprine and 6-mercaptopurine, it is getting converted to, with the help of the xanthine oxidase enzyme, it is going to get converted to 6-thiouric acid, which is inactive and getting excreted through urine, and 6-methyl-mercaptopurine with the help of DMPT enzyme. And here the very important thing, there is the 6-thioisonine and 5-monophosphate. This molecule is liberated with the help of HPRT enzyme. And with IMPDH pathway, it is going to give rise to 6-thioguanine nucleotides, which are going to block the synthesis of DNA and RNA. But this monophosphate molecule through TMPT pathway, which is another route, it is going to give rise to 6-methyl-mercaptopurine ribonucleotides, which block the purine synthesis inhibition. So DNA, RNA, purine synthesis, all the synthesis of this molecule is nullified. Well absorbed orally, rapidly metabolized by xanthine oxidase enzyme, which is also required to synthesize uric acid. But use of xanthine oxidase inhibitor, that is allopurinol, decreases in activation of 6-mercaptopurine. So whenever there is, what can we say, toxicity is enhanced, then we can use the administration of this allopurinol molecule sometimes. Mercaptopurine and its metabolites are rapidly excreted by the kidneys. Penetration into the CSF is poor. So here 6-mercaptopurine, an active metabolite with PMPT pathway with xanthine oxidase, 6-thiouric acid, which is going to get excreted in urine. So this allopurinol is going to inhibit this xanthine oxidase enzyme. So there will not be further adverse effects. So here what happens, the adverse effects are mainly similar to methotrexate and most commonly affecting bone marrow and GI tract. And it also gives rise to hepatic necrosis. So because of this, what can I say here? You can see xanthine oxidase enzyme 6-thiouric acid is formed. So hyperuricemia you can see with this molecule administration in the patient with hyperuricosuria, so gout formation. So because of which, to nullify that action, we can sometimes administer allopurinol. Due to massive restriction of the cells of lymphoid series, this hyperuricemia is because of that one, massive destruction of the cells of lymphoid tissues. Hence, urine should be maintained alkaline and its volume adequate. That's why I made this urine in different color. So this urine means you have to remember hyperuricemia because of massive cell destruction and resulting in hyperuricosauria and gout formation. So for that reason, we can alkalinize the urine to prevent that, and even allopurinol administration also can be done. It is used in the management of acute leukemia in children, CML, and choriocarcinoma. Resistance is of course seen. And other purine analogs are 6-thioguanine and azathioprine, which have cytotoxic actions but no advantages when compared to the mercaptopurine molecule. So 6-thioguanine, so all this pathway is same. It is going to take the help of HBRT enzyme getting converted to thioguanosine monophosphate and thioguanosine triphosphate and thioguanosine monophosphate methyl molecule here. That is the metabolism of this molecule. Then azathioprine, it is an immunosuppressive agent which is used in the management of organ transplantation and also autoimmune diseases like hemolytic anemias and glomerulonephritis and rheumatoid arthritis. Then coming to the cladribine molecule. Cladribine, this is the main mechanism of action. It enters into the T cell, getting converted into the cladribine triphosphate, then gets incorporated into DNA, inhibits DNA synthesis and repair as well. So this molecule is used in the management of high-risk cell leukemia, low-grade lymphomas, and CLL. So here you can see activated cladribine because of the phosphorylation. Inactivation is done with some other mechanism, that is activated cladribine is inactivated by a specific phosphatase enzyme. So activated cladribine is helpful in the lymphocyte reduction. Fludarabine, so again same triphosphate, it is getting converted into or activated into. But here inhibition of DNA polymerase, whereas here in this case, fludarabine, it is just converted into triphosphate, cladribine, and then incorporated into DNA. Here, inhibition of DNA polymerase enzyme is specific here, then incorporated into DNA. So it gives rise to dysfunctional DNA, used in the management of CLL and NHL, that is non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Then pentostatin. This molecule inhibits adenosine deaminase. So there is accumulation of adenosine and deoxyadenosine. So increased concentration. Then these molecules will inhibit ribonucleotide reductase, which blocks DNA synthesis, used in the management of hairy cell leukemia. Then coming to the pyrimidine analogs. So we have 5-fluorouracil cytosine arabinosid, otherwise known as cytarabine molecule, and gemcitabine. So pyrimidine analogs means they interfere with the synthesis of pyrimidine nucleotides and DNA biosynthesis. IV infusion or topical administration used in the management of cancers, psoriasis, and fungal infections as well. So we have 5-fluorouracil molecule, fluorinated analog of pyrimidine. It acts by binding the enzyme thymidylate synthetase, thus preventing the production of thymine. the basic component of DNA. So DNA synthesis is inhibited. So 5-FDUTP is incorporated into RNA in place of uracil by RNA polymerase and interferes with RNA function. It is toxic to the bone marrow, GI epithelium, and CNS. Here you can see the mechanism of action. 5-fluorouracil getting converted into FDUMP. FDUMP means fluorodeoxyuridine monophosphate. So this takes the help of thymidylate synthetase. So it acts on this enzyme, and DUMP is getting converted into thymidine monophosphate. So here this 5-fluorouracil molecule is going to block this pathway. So thymidine monophosphates are not formed, so DNA synthesis will not be there. So they are used in the management of stomach, colon, breast, ovaries, liver, and skin cancers. Then coming to the hand-foot syndrome. So this is the most common side effect that you can see with this molecule. So grade 1, painless erythema or dysesthesia, no impairment. Then grade 2, painful erythema, swelling, tingling, numbness, dryness, cracking, you can see here, desquamation, epithelium is coming out, activity is impaired. Grade 3, strong pain, ulcerations, you can see, blistering, and erythema and self-sufficiency is at risk. Then cetirizine arabinoside, it is also a pyrimidine analog used in the management of AML in adults, drug of choice indeed. It is a S phase specific antimetabolite, specifically acts on S phase. Acts by interfering with pyrimidine synthesis. So ADR are nausea, vomiting, and myelosuppression, and cerebellar ataxia. So this is the main mechanism of action. Cetirizine arabinoside, phosphorylated to triphosphate, inhibition of DNA synthesis. Used in the management of adult and childhood leukemias, acute or non-lymphocytic leukemias, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and meningeal leukemia. Then gemcitabine molecule. It is also an antimetabolite, analog of deoxycytidine, S-phase specific again. Mechanism of action here is metabolites to intracellularly to the active diphosphate and then triphosphate nucleosides, which inhibit DNA synthesis, same like the other molecules from the cladribine. Another target for gemcitabine is the enzyme ribonucleotide reductase. Irreversible enzyme inhibition blocks synthesis of deoxyribonucleotides required for DNA replication and repair, causing apoptosis of cells, which is usually blocked. This programmed cell death is blocked in the cancer cell replication. Okay, ribonucleotide reductase enzyme irreversibly inhibited. Okay, that is another mechanism of action. You can see gemcitabine monophosphate, diphosphate, triphosphate acting on DNA polymerase, incorporating into the nucleotides into the DNA, and synthesis is nullified. Same, a little bit enlarged picture, monophosphate, diphosphate, triphosphate, DNA polymerase, incorporation into the nucleotides. ADR are flu-like symptoms, fever, fatigue, nausea, vomiting, hepatic damage, skin rash, and of course bone marrow suppression is not spared of. Therapeutic uses non-small cell lung cancer, then bladder cancer, breast cancer, ovarian cancer, head and neck cancer, pancreatic cancer, and renal carcinoma. So here you can see the summary here. Folic acid analogs, methotrexate, ALL, choriocarcinoma is the drug of the choice, and breast cancer and head and neck cancer, lung cancer, osteogenic sarcoma, and bladder carcinoma. Permetrexate, analog of methotrexate, used in the management of mesothelioma and lung cancer. Pyrimidine analogs, fluorouracil, used in the management of breast cancer, colon, esophageal, stomach cancer. Cytarabine in AML, ALL, and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And gemcitabine for pancreatic, ovarian, and lung cancer. Purine analog and related inhibitors, that is like mercaptopurine, AML, and ALL. Then we have discussed fludarabine, that is used in the management of CLL. So with this, we have finished the first session of anti-cancer drugs, that is the classification of classification of all the anti-cancer drugs, and then the alkylating agents, and then antimetabolites we have discussed. So rest of the topic, rest of the anti-cancer drugs we'll be discussing in the second and third session. So please go through it. So I have tried my level best to make it more simplified, because some of the students expressed to me that this topic is very, very tough to understand, especially in comparative study, and also the mechanisms of actions are not clear. So that's why I tried my level best to keep simplified diagrammatic representation everywhere. So please take the advantage of it. So we'll meet in the second session again. Thank you. Thank you, one and all.